People who have decided that they never wanna have kids. What is your reasoning for it? My genetics suck, and I hate being around children. Same. Also, I'm an extreme introvert and I don't even like being around people. It helps if I love them, of course, but I do need a reliable 4-hour span of solitude a day. Moms notoriously don't get one. I feel like a lot of women have kids because they dislike being alone and want to have someone who will always love them or at least make them feel important. That just doesn't ring a bell for me. I would feel like a slave. And then there's the horror of pregnancy and childbirth. That's a big 10-note good buddy. I have no desire to be pregnant or experience childbirth, ever. I also enjoy having my freedom and don't want every decision I make to revolve around being a parent. The short answer is I'm too selfish, and I'm okay with this. I had a customer tell me the other day that my child-free choice is not selfish. She's the selfish one for having kids. I was in awe. I honestly didn't know what to say. So I just said thank you. But I get what you mean. I've been saying for years that I'm too selfish. I don't want to share my time and money. I hate kids. I don't want a relationship. I can't afford it. I value my free time highly. I think I would hate it. I think I would be bad at it. I don't like the way the future looks. They might grow up to be an asshole. The list goes on. I like kids. And I have a partner, but in our society you're supposed to give up all of your hobbies and your own life just to focus on raising children. I would have been okay with kids if I could just let them go play by the creek all day while I mess with cars in my garage. But parenting just sounds exhausting these days. I don't do well with stress. Just once, I want to see someone ask, parents, why did you have kids? Why is it only the child-free people expected to put deep thought into this life-changing decision? Terrified of pregnancy. I would have a kid. I just don't wanna have the kid. But then adoption costs $1 zillion, so basically I'd like to be a father, but alas I'm a woman. Mental illness runs so thick in my family I don't wanna risk it. Like other users have said already, if I meet the right person and finances work out I'd like to adopt a kid or two and skip the baby. It is a bonus. I have Asperger's and mental health issues, and I don't want to pass those traits. I despise high-pitched noises. Vomit makes me dry heave. I can't afford them. The world is going to hell. There's 7 billion on the planet. I much prefer the company of animals to small children. I'm too old to have a safe pregnancy and I have a malformed uterus. I don't want to be hated by my own offspring. Heart disease runs in my family. Honestly, I could go on. Why do we need reasoning? Bringing a child into the world is what should be backed by reasoning. I think a lot of people have kids to convince themselves life isn't pointless and kids gives them purpose for their existence. I have no such delusions. I'm just going to enjoy the short ride in time. Genetic condition. Don't want to inflict on any offspring. Have you seen how many kids need foster care or homes? People hung up on bloodlines need to get over themselves. Just don't want to. It is a lifetime long lifestyle choice that isn't for everyone. I wish some of my family and friends had not been parents. They were either not ready, not emotionally equipped, or just downright expense. Being a responsible parent can be very expensive. Not just medical bills and childcare, all the things having a dependent needs. Any idiot can have kids. Not every idiot has the financial means to support them. Breeding for religious reasons isn't the necessity it used to be when people were organized into tribes or petty kingdoms. These days we need to focus more on love thy neighbor and less on a quiver full of arrows. If I ever have kids I want to adopt. A lot of people have said it's weird, but TBH I don't want to ruin my body, and with all the kids that don't have homes I'd rather help them. I like kids. I also like handing them back to their parents. I want to travel and see the world. Tough to do as a parent. Pregnancy scares me. I have some mental conditions I don't want to pass on. Mostly, I've never felt a maternal instinct or the desire for children, which is enough of a reason for me. I don't enjoy children in general, and I have no interest in dealing with someone's shit, butts, and vomit. Additionally, they're expensive as shit. I have no maternal instinct, so why force the issue? While I've always been confident in my decision to be child-free, but more and more I look at climate change and the resurgence of white nationalism or Nazis or fascism, and I'm super glad I decided not to have kids. Deep question. In a nutshell, I'm sterile and this presented problems in relationships. As a result, I did not get married until age 42, although I had plenty of live-ins until then. At age 42 I felt there was too much age or generational gap to become a new parent by adopting. To date at age 58 I'm convinced I made the right decision. I love children and always wanted them, but came to realize and finally made peace with the fact that was not meant to be in this lifetime. This is the core of my reason or reasons, thus my answer. Number 1. The worst salespeople for becoming a parent are parents. Watching their lives and listening to their struggles gives me no desire to have children at all. I've enjoyed living on my own, that I take things for granted. If I decide to leave the house, I leave the house. I return when I want. I don't have to line up 2 or 3 plans just to have one planned evening out. I just go. I like naps. I like silence when I want it. My mental health is in terrible shape. I can barely afford to take care of myself. I struggle to keep the heat on, and I only need to take care of me. The screaming. The endless screaming. I'm not ready for everything I own to get broken. Several reasons. I don't tend to have relationships, so I don't project much opportunity to actually have kids. The men in my immediate family are all a bit socially weird and anxious. I don't know if that's genetic or something having to do with the environment we grew up in, but I don't want to pass it on if it is. I don't consider myself to be the sort of person who would become a good father. Even supposing that I was, I don't think that I want to spend the time and energy on it. I have a career and my colleagues who have had children are perpetually exhausted and overwhelmed by the combined stresses of work and parenting and after school activities. Plus, I know I just end up stressing myself out fighting the current culture of child rearing. When I was a kid, it was normal for a 10-year-old kid to hop on a bike and ride around the neighborhood. I walked home from school when I was 7 or 8. The people I've talked to recently about this stuff don't even want to let high school age kids walk home from school because it's too dangerous, much less go out by themselves. Instead of letting them have the freedom to explore the world, they're pushing their kids into a packed schedule of extracurricular activities and stressing themselves sideways, taxiing them from event to event because, of course, heaven forbid that a child be permitted to go out of doors on their own. One of my coworkers mentioned, sort of offhand, that when his daughter went off to college it was the first time she'd spent a night anywhere without her parents in the house. Maybe that's normal now, I don't know, but it strikes me as very deeply weird. They accused my generation of being neurotic and not having any coping skills, and maybe that was true to a degree, but, oh man, what we are doing to kids now is just appalling. Plus there's the usual stuff about the world ending, climate change, World War III, increasingly divisive politics, etc. I guess I have sort of mixed feelings about that, because those are things that can change. I was born in the early 80s. When my parents had me, they had good reason to believe that total nuclear annihilation was imminently probable. Most of my childhood that I remember was in the 90s, after the fall of the Soviet Union, but before 9/11. I guess, looking back, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a brief little window where it stopped being normal to assume that the world was about to end. I was raised very religious and repeatedly told that women who don't have children will never have fulfilling lives. The whole woman's place thing came up a lot. Older single women and married women who worked outside the home were scorned. I had big dreams as a kid, and seeing my mother's life, no friends. Life revolved around her kids. Literally all her time was spent doing housework. Held as an example of the feminine ideal was a horrifying concept that sent me into a profound depression for a decade. I knew that wasn't the life I wanted, but even after starting to question my faith, I still dutifully attempted to find the one and strap myself into the idea that women are built to serve. Then I discovered feminism and spent an entire year screaming in rage to anyone who would listen. The concept that I had ownership of my life, my goals, my future, my body was so completely foreign, but at the same time, it was something I'd always known deep down. and needed to embrace instead of fighting. That internal war was the main driving force behind 12 years of horrible mental illness. Recovery felt amazing. I started to find peace and autonomy and independence. And then I read Freedom by Jonathan Franzen, and the ideas behind the free space movement in that book got me thinking down a lot of lines about reproduction, and I decided that I wanted my tubes tied. Coming out of that surgery, for the first time in my life, I really felt like my body was my own, not a waiting vessel. Not against raising kids, but I'm still not in a place where that is a priority, and I have no interest in babies or toddlers. At some point I might foster teenagers, because they're the ones who have the hardest time finding support, and my skill set is more suited to older kids. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Let us know your thoughts on this topic. See you soon.